Quinn exiting, there are no black women coaches currently in the WNBA. And everybody trying to stop on each other. It's reckless for Matt to dismiss it as a cash grab. They're obviously Napheesa Collier has a story for us. And she shared that story in her exit interview, which really sparked this controversy. And then recently, yesterday, she took stage with Kamala to tell why she did what she did. And it was right on time because during the panel, shout out to Man Down Sports. If you head over to Man Down Sports channel and you click on anything WNBA related, you will see a panel of 4 fabulous, beautiful ladies, myself included. And we discussed Kathy and Napheesa's, and we all had our own unique perspective to offer and bring to the table. And one of the questions I posed was, how long did Napheesa know about this? Was she holding on to this tidbit of information about Kathy? And why did she wait until now to bring it up? If she was really feeling like she was being oppressed or unfairly treated, why did she hold on to the information for so long? I wanted to know why. And how long did she have this information? And I guess the basketball ears were listening, and she came forth and she said why. All right, so that's the first thing I want to get into. I couldn't figure out how to do the audio, so I'm just going to read it to you. But and again, it's a summit, and it's called A Day of Unreasonable Conversation. And it's a summit held for activists and storytellers. And right now, Napheesa fits into both of those modes. She's probably number 1 on the list of everybody wants to hear what Napheesa Collier has to say. And so she says, quote, "No matter the consequences, I felt like it was something that needed to be done." She goes on to say, "I've never had planned to do that," Collier told Harris. "I am on the union for CBA negotiations." She is the vice president of the WNBPA, the Women's National Basketball Players Association, which is one of the first unions that was established in women's professional sports ever. That was done by the WNBA, and she is the vice president, and Nneka Onwugamake is the president, okay? And Collier goes on to say, "And for so long, I felt like I saw what was going on behind closed doors. For so long, we tried to have these conversations and move the needle, and I saw nothing change." Collier goes on to say, "Coaches winning and losing alike were complaining about the same things over and over again, players over and over again, and we weren't seeing a change that our leadership was trying to make," Collier said. "Whether I was going to get annihilated for this, or people were going to support me, I felt what I was doing was right. I felt like it needed to be said." So she had strong convictions that she needed to get this out. And if you're wondering like what it is, if you don't remember, Collier had her exit interview and she said that Kathy had said, she said, he said, she said, she had said that she had said that players should be getting down on their knees and be grateful. So, I'm curious, before I continue on with my monologue, I am curious to see what y'all thought about Monday and Napheesa getting on stage and telling her why. And mind you, that is not all Napheesa mentioned. She's been holding on to this since February. 7 months. She's been holding on to this. And she was going to wait. She said she was going to wait until the Minnesota Lynx season had ended. And she just said ended. So she couldn't see the future. She still was she was actually the favorite for the MVP candidacy. And she didn't know how the season was going to end, but she just knew she was going to do it when, I guess at the exit interview, because that's when the season would end for her, So I'm pretty sure she didn't anticipate her season ending the way that she did, but I'm sure it further helped her make her decision. She's pretty much saying she was going to make this statement regardless. So, I mean, And keep in mind, what's interesting about the whole conversation around pay and the new CBA, if the WNBA finally does pay the players what they're worth, because my mind is thinking past this lockout situation. If the contracts grow, if the sponsorships expand and the travel improves, right? If the women get what they want, then what happens to Unrivaled? Because there was a WNBA exec, it was a rumor, and it said sources in this article that I found. Sources from a WNBA exec said that it's a conflict of interest what Napheesa did because she is the co-owner of the Unrivaled League. And they're essentially insinuating that Fee is using this as a strategic opportunity to lift her league up and promote her league and pull people away from the WNBA. She's like an opportunist. Now, hey, I'm not saying it. All I'm saying is they said this is a conflict of interest because you have a player, keep in mind, you have a player who is one of the best players in the league, has a huge platform and following. Boom, that's one of her powers. Second power, she's on the union. Not only is she on the union, she's one of its leaders. And then the third, she's the owner of a competing league whose sole purpose of the league is to uplift players and show it's possible that they could get paid what they're owed and what they're deserved. That's why Unrivaled. It was built as a response. They played essentially what this Unrivaled League offers is fair treatment, fair play, fair pay, and fair shares. They're giving ownership to the women. They're pretty much giving the women everything that they wish the WNBA would give to them, right? And it's just like another source of income for the women since they're not making enough to just have this one job at the WNBA. But if the WNBA starts doing those things, then what would be the purpose of Unrivaled? And I'm not saying that as criticism. I actually think it's a great problem to have. All right. It means progress, but it just raises the question, does Unrivaled stay a rebellion or does it evolve into something else? Because right now it's positioned as leverage, especially when you have the owner who speaks out and says what she said about Kathy. And she said she was fed up, that she had to say it. She got tired of the injustices and she had to speak because this is what she thought was right. I just think right now, Unrivaled and Napheesa, they're in this like weird space where it's like half empowerment and half competition. And if the W really gets its house in order, Unrivaled might have to redefine its mission. Maybe it becomes a development league, or maybe a showcase, or maybe it keeps the pressure on the W so they don't slip back into its own selfish ways. Either way, the tension is growing. All right. And if the revolution, the women in this revolt, in their efforts, get what they want, I'm just curious, like, where do these two leagues go from here? Will they be able to like come together? Like, what's going on? What are y'all thoughts? We have maybe Unrivaled merge with the WNBA. Who knows? Mackin and Reaction. I think it's my first time seeing you in the chat. Welcome to the chat. Maybe it's the big three for the women. I don't know what that means. Could you further elaborate? What's up, Cheetah? Welcome to the chat. Hope you're doing well today. But when WNBA salaries rise, does Unrivaled lose its purpose? Because we're hoping that the women get paid more, but then what's the point of Unrivaled? And then if Fee does continue on and Bree Stewart continues on with their league and pulling people over, I start to wonder, what did y'all really do this for? Another question I'm asking is, if you want a better leader who actually cares about you, because that would make you feel like showing up to work maybe, would you then be okay with not getting paid? Or do you want it all? You want it all. Because I think you deserve it all, absolutely. But if you remove Kathy, the owners are still got to be the ones who want to give up this money. And some of the leagues in the W aren't even in the black. They don't even have enough money to pay everybody. So, and if it just seems like a lot of moving pieces. Let's talk about the law aspect of everything so that we can maybe start formulating our own thoughts of the best resolution and pathway, even though it's like, why does it matter if we do that? But I think it does matter because we don't want to just talk about drama and we don't want to just talk about what she said, what she did. I'm looking for resolution here because as a fan, I want to watch basketball. I want there to be a lockout. I want them to get paid and I want them to have a good relationship. I don't want to hear no more that they think that they should be grateful. No, they should be grateful. I don't want to hear that crap no more. I just want to hear y'all play basketball. That's what I really want to hear. So I came across Sportico, which is a law analyst. It's paywalled though, so we're gonna infer. But it's laying out like a chessboard for the WNBA's upcoming labor dispute. And when I say upcoming, I'm referring to the October 31st deadline, which they could obviously get extensions. But I want to talk about antitrust claims, injunctions, lockout timing, jurisdiction battles, public narratives. Whew! This isn't just about the numbers, y'all. This is strategy. And if Napheesa didn't tell anybody she was going to do this, I know that if she's an owner of a competing league and she's this and she's that, there's no way she didn't consult with a lawyer before doing what she did, or her PR representative, or her husband, who is also a part of the owner of Unrivaled, by the way. It just seems like a lot of strategy going on here on both ends, because even Kathy used multiple times in her conference, she said good faith negotiations, and good faith has something to do with the laws. Okay, I was reading it and I was trying not to get confused, but I wanted to break it down. So what the league may try to do is argue a single entity, meaning teams are not independent. And thus, because they're all franchises, you have to pay a franchise fee in order to buy into the league. So the teams are not independent, and thus many antitrust claims can get blocked. The players, through the union, may contend the teams act independently. So a player can contend a teams act that's held against them from the league as an independent person, competing in markets, recruiting players, building rosters. If that argument can get traction, then the players can challenge restrictive practices like movement limits or punitive clauses. And so far what I'm getting at is that if they can't reach an agreement, then the court of law is going to reach an agreement for them. and a part of the strategy, because every state is different, the league can try to fight these battles in certain states that may favor them. And the same could be for the ladies as well. So it's a lot of moving pieces. It's a lot. So moving to the unfair labor practice filings, because there's the ULP filings. And so the NLRB, which is, I think it's the National Labor. Oh gosh, I wrote it down somewhere. It's a lot to keep up with. Okay, the NLRB. I'll find where that thing is. But so they pretty much regulate the like the labor practices and stuff, right? And so you can file unfair labor practice. And if the players accuse the league of refusing to bargain in good faith, that's why Kathy, there's a good faith word. Kathy kept saying it. We're negotiating in good faith. We're negotiating in good faith. Or the league can accuse the players of bad behavior in organizing actions. We can see formal complaints and law interventions. It could get even nastier than like just these petty back and forth narratives we're seeing. Don't let all this stuff distract you, okay? And the lockout is just rhetoric. Because under certain legal structures, the league could legally lock out players if the CBA expires without an agreement. Sports leagues often use lockout timing as leverage. We've seen it in the MLB and the NFL specifically. Another angle to all of this is venue and jurisdiction clauses. So if the league can force disputes into courts they favor, like I was saying earlier, they might gain a procedural edge between substantiated law, if even considered. Whew. And last but not least, the nightmare of all this, the main thing that drives, because it's what the public thinks of you these days. I mean, I think it's always been like that. That's why like propaganda is so important and stuff. But what people actually think, because right now everybody hates Kathy. The majority hate Kathy. The majority think she should be excommunicado. She's doing a terrible job. It's all her fault. That's what everybody is saying right now, okay? That is PR strategy built into legal tactics. Yes, she's being a terrible boss, and she's being also accused of being a terrible person. But leaks, timing of statements, aligning legal filings with major gains in media narratives, that's leverage. Like this Unrivaled league. If you notice in Fee's exit interview, there was some time she plugged in her league, Unrivaled. She plugged it in. Now, again, I'm not choosing sides. You know what side I'm on? I'm on basketball side. I don't want to see a lockout. I really don't. I just think that the stakes have been extremely raised at this point, almost to like they've gone to hell. So where do they go from here? And whatever happens with however this plays out, I think this is going to have decades of impact on the WNBA. Decades of impact. Because if the leadership underestimates this, they could lose more than a season. They could risk their credibility, fan trust, and structural damage. That brings me to the next part of this conversation, Adam Silver. I mean, I said a lot just now, and it was a lot to digest. I'll check the comments, give you a moment to think. I know I was just like, oh my gosh. What's up? Welcome everyone to the chat. Glad you're here, all my returners. Let's see. April G said, it wasn't a conflict of interest last season, even when shares were offered to the organization who had to decline because WNBA rules. Nothing in the old CBA saying players couldn't start a league. Right. That wasn't in the old negotiations, but the women left themselves vulnerable when they declined to re-sign those agreements and negotiations. Something tells me it's a possibility that in these new negotiations, the WNBA, and this is all assumption, but based on how the women are acting, I'm assuming that a part of these negotiations, the owners took it behooved them. I'm pretty sure whoever's top dog sat down and said it would behoove y'all to include something about this Unrivaled league in the negotiation to prevent this league from eventually growing to be bigger than the WNBA. Because the potential of it obviously is there. Look at all the big names that are already backing it, and look how enraged all the players are at this point. They're upset that their leader said what they said, all because of the owner of the Unrivaled league exposing it, holding on to this information, being privy to how their boss is moving. And I'm sure they all have felt it in some type of capacity from Kathy and just weren't saying nothing, but she further fueled this, right? So I'm pretty sure in these negotiations, neither side, probably both sides are losing something. I bet the owners are like, all right, if we're going to give up this owner stake, well, you can't have both then. You got to give us a little bit of Unrivaled then. That's just my assumption. But that's because of the conflict of interest. So maybe Fee got herself backed into a corner and she used PR to her advantage. Who knows? Because she made her comment yesterday. She said, I could get annihilated. I don't think she was talking about from the fans. I think she knew we were going to receive this really well, because what human being would want to see another human being treated like that? Unless you're like a psychopath. So she knew what she was doing in that aspect, but she also knew the retaliation of the league and what that could mean. So it was a risky move. It was very risky, but she did it, and now we're here. and I'm wondering where it's gonna go because it's gonna shape the league forever. This was it was a huge power play, and I'm really curious to see. And I'll be honest with y'all, I think it had a little the motives with what she did had something to do with Unrivaled, and that makes sense because the mission of Unrivaled is for the benefit of the players for sure. 100%. That's great. What does that say for the W? I would love for the W to get better leadership, but the NBA and the WNBA have been pieces of crap for a long time. But to see those two leagues get abolished would suck. Is that really what we want as fans? Or do we want it to just get better? I'm all for the hope. I want to talk about what Adam Silver said. Because me personally, we could have went without hearing from him. But I'm thinking maybe some people did want to hear from him. I'm personally, as a fan, curious, how much power does Adam Silver have regarding the WNBA in general? Because I know there's so many owners who own the WNBA. So I'm curious, like, what does his influence and power being at the helm in the league for so long, how deep does his pockets go? You see what I'm saying? Like, how much is he bought into the league, and if there's any conflict of interest, and like, because I'm pretty sure Kathy has nothing to do with Adam Silver's global expansion plans and whatever he got going on with the players. Kathy is not in those conversations, but because unfortunately men run women in the professional space, I'm pretty sure something's telling me deep down in my gut that Adam Silver is in those meetings with Kathy. Something is telling me they having dinner. They had dinner together recently. You feel what I'm saying? They had breakfast. Or maybe the men treat maybe Kathy low key doesn't get respected from anybody. The players, the fans, or the men behind the calling the shots. Who knows? I don't know. But what I do know is Adam Silver at the NBC, it was like an NBC day or so, NBC Sports headquarters, he was asked about it, and he made some remarks. He said, Kathy Engelbert has presided over historic growth in the league, but there's no question that there's issues we need to address with our players. Okay, hold on, because he says we need to address with our players. I guess, is he talking about the NBA or the WNBA when he says we? Silver said, they're not just economic, they're relationship issues as well. I'm confident we can fix those over time, and this league can continue to be on the rocket trajectory that it's on right now. Yeah, that just sounded like he was like, Kathy, I'm going to go up there. I'm going to dress up a nice little statement for real. I got you. What do y'all think? Let me check the comments. Should Stephen A. Smith be forced to sell his podcast because he works for ESPN? Bree, would you sell your podcast if you got a job offer from ESPN, even though your podcast would improve your future salary? That is such a great question. Would I, if ESPN offered me a job, would I sell my podcast because it would be like a conflict of interest ? If they said I couldn't have my podcast, I would be like, well, like, what do y'all want me working for y'all for? Like, what am I doing? What's my job? What's my role? But I don't know if I want to sell my soul to ESPN. I think Malika's doing a great job. I'm not saying she sold her soul, but I'm just saying, like, ESPN, I think I can dream bigger than that, But I see the premise of your question. Because I look at it like, if I'm this great, I can go anywhere and just keep it going. Like, my future salary is just not in the hands of this podcast and stuff like that. But that's a hard question to answer. But no. Real Money said WNBA has turned into a daily soap opera, reality television. JT said, don't tell Fee anything. If she gets mad, she telling. 100%. She's snitching. No, that's funny. WB said Fee and Stewie will have to divest. Chicago Cheetah said Fee should retire from the union. April G said, in my opinion, the players don't want that added to the new CBA because that would be the end of Unrivaled. Players know Kathy will add that part in the new CBA and want her gone. That's what I'm saying. Like, all of this is strategy. So I feel, because one of the things I said in the panel now, I'm a female, I'm emotional. You know, females have their ways. They want to be comfort. They want to know that who they're working for them cares for them. I'm not saying men don't either, but I asked this question. I said, is Adam Silver texting any man who gets hurt in the league? Is he sending Fred VanVleet a text message asking him if he's okay? I mean, my boss, my manager, so I have a director, a manager, supervisor, whatever. My manager, the reason that she knows if I'm sick because I work under her every day. So my manager, like my coach, I would expect a text from her. I would not expect a text from my director. I'm sorry. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't. When I mentioned Sophie Cunningham and her injury and her sister try to leverage that injury, but if you play back the clip of the injury, the lack of refs had nothing to do with the injury, but because she had a season-ending injury, she was an opportunist, and she strategically, somebody's telling these women, okay, this is the perfect time to take advantage. You're hurt, the season's ending, injury. Let them know it's the WNBA fault. Even though if you watch the clip back, I don't think, even if the ref would have called the foul or not called the foul, she would have got hurt. It was a complete uncontrollable. Fast forward to Fee's injury. Alyssa Thomas, it was a clean steal. We could argue that all day, but I watched it. I didn't think it had anything to do with the officiating, that particular injury. So if you're saying you got injured and you're upset she didn't reach out to you about it, and you consider that to be good leadership, okay. I don't know about that. That's all. But if Kathy has been making promises to these women since the beginning, they probably all get together in a room. It's only about 150 of them. They get together in a room, and I'm pretty sure Kathy stands up there and she says, she's talking to women. I care about you. I'm gonna fight for you. I got your back. And then it doesn't feel like she has her back. That's understandable. Adam Silver made it a point to talk about broken relationships and they have to be repaired. Will this repair include both sides getting what they want? Is the grounds of this repair gonna be people getting what they want? Because if they get what they want, because that's the point I'm trying to make. Is it about getting a good leader in the helm, or is it about just getting what you deserve? Because I keep saying this, you take Kathy away, you're still not going to get what you deserve because she's not the main one preventing it from happening. She's just the mouthpiece for it. You want someone who's going to get up in your face and be like, I care about you, but behind the scenes, whatever, as long as you feel like someone cares about you because they texted you and you good. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say? It's so many moving pieces. So many moving pieces. But I just wanted to know, do you think Adam Silver did his latest comments? Do you think that they helped or hurt anything? Me personally, we could have went the rest of our lives without hearing that statement because obviously, Adam, obviously. And then I guess what stands out to me is what he said was we. He said we, as in, how much power do you have in the WNBA? Because we both know y'all both whack as commissioners. We would like anybody else to be in those seats. Absolutely. 100%. So when Adam Silver says there's relationship issues, we need to work to build the trust. I'm just curious. We need to address with our players. So it's no question that the WNBA is going through growing pains, and it's unfortunate that it's gotten this far. But there's more important things like the WNBA finals. Let's talk about that because I'm over talking about these people for right now. Let's move on. Let's move on because we gonna hear about it tomorrow, the day after. Halloween's coming up. I might dress up as Kathy Engelbert and scare some people.